So glad that you're here. We're just gonna take a second for everyone to arrive in the waiting room, arrive from the waiting room. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. So hi, everybody. My name is Jay. I'm the manager of programs and inclusion here at iBeam. I'm sitting in my apartment right now. I have shaved head, recently shaved, a little fuzzy. I am wearing big black headphones on my head. I have light brown skin, brown eyes, wearing a big gray scarf that's kind of denim-y around my neck, and a light denim shirt. And I just want to begin today, my pronouns are he and him. And I just want to begin today with an access check for folks that are here and folks that are arriving. Make sure that everyone has the things that they need to take part and be comfortable joining us today. So we'll just take a moment. There are ASL interpreters here supporting this event, as well as captioning available. The directions for that will be posted in the chat box real soon. We'll also be taking a 5-minute break today, kind of midway through the program, which will include music, but we will replay that music at the end of the program, so you don't miss it. If you do take a step away from your computer, there's a chance to experience that music again. And I'd like to orient you to the virtual room as we get settled. There is a number of iBeam staff members supporting today's event, including Edan, who will be reading out the contents of the chat box aloud. Please feel free to reach out in the chat box or unmute yourself should you need anything. It also helps to say your name if you begin speaking, so we know that who is speaking. And with that said, I would love to turn it over to Edan to offer a hello and a description.
Hi, everyone. This is Edan here. I'm really excited to be here with you all. I'm a light-skinned Chinese American, and I have my long black hair in a ponytail currently and large clear rim glasses. I'm wearing an indigo dyed button-up long sleeve, and I'm sitting in front of a white wall with also a naturally dyed fabric that's purple hanging behind me. I'm going to be reading any comments or questions that people are posting in the chat box. And now I'm gonna turn it over to Sally.
Hi there, thank you. It's really great to be here. I'm Sally Sweat. I'm the artistic director of iBeam. And I'd like to just describe myself today for any guests who are blind or low vision. I have dark reddish brown curly hair past my shoulders, light skin, and I wear large plastic framed glasses with a slight cat eye, and I'm wearing berry colored lipstick and sitting in my kitchen with some warm brown cabinets just behind me. Thank you so much for attending today's gathering, alt text Potluck, with Bohana Kokliat, Shannon Finnegan, and Laurel Schwolst and Tai Chi Wee of Abundant Blue, Lexi Visco and Calvin Rocchio of Companion Platform. And today's gathering is also marked by a newly commissioned composition by Jerome Ellis. And first, Edan, whom you just met, is here to assist with any access needs or questions, and will be reading out the contents of the chat box as we go. Mad will be posting directions in the chat box on how we make captions and ASL visible to you if they are not already, as well as other helpful information. Today's gathering is being captioned. Hello to Faith, our captioner for this event. We also have ASL provided by Andrea and Brandon, who are all here from LC Interpreting. During a time when our lives are increasingly enmeshed with the digital, iBeam aims to ensure the accessibility of our digital programs and content. This is an ongoing commitment from our organization and is one that continues to evolve in close collaboration with our community of artists, audiences like yourself, and our wonderful team. For those of you who are just getting to know iBeam and this project for the first time, our mission is to center artists in the invention and design of our shared future. We are committed to the idea that artists are a necessary part of not just imagining, but also creating a more humane future. Alt Text as Poetry is a wonderful collaboration between Bojana and Shannon Finnegan, and is supported by the Disability Visibility Project and I-Beam during Shannon's 2019 residency with us. Their ongoing work aims to reframe alt text as a type of poetry and asks us to consider how can we instead approach alt text thoughtfully and creatively. Now, they've organized dozens of alt text as poetry workshops that have been held across New York City and nationally at institutions such as Lincoln Center, MCA Denver, Queens Museum, Data and Society, and Vassar College, just to name a few. I-Beam is proud to have supported this important multi-year exploration of the poetic potential of image description and is now thrilled to celebrate with you all the launch of a new alt text as poetry workbook and website. So now it's with great pleasure that I'd love to welcome Bojana and Shannon, and I'm going to turn things over to them to kick off the event. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. We're going to start off with just all of the panelists saying hi and doing our self-descriptions. Bojana, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. Bojana here. I have short brown hair cut into a bob. I have some bangs. I'm wearing big, bulky headphones. I'm wearing a little bit of pink lipstick. I'm a white woman. I'm also wearing a very colorful dress. It has a lot of pinks and whites and greens. I'm also wearing some silver jewelry, and behind me is a light green wall with some artwork, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I am a co-creator of Alt Text as Poetry with Bojana. I am an artist. I use they, them pronouns, and I am a white person in my early 30s. I have shortish, blondish hair. And today I'm wearing my favorite shirt, which is a blue turtleneck, because I'm in a celebratory mood.
Hi, I guess I'll go next. My name is Laurel Schwolst. I co-created the Alt Text as Poetry website with Taichi Wee, and I am a white person, also in my early 30s. I use she, her pronouns. But yeah, I am wearing a dark blue and white sweater, kind of like the Alt Text as Poetry website. And behind me, I think I'm kind of I have like a slight glow to my face because I'm next to my favorite lamp. And then behind me is a candle that I think is, the scent is like pine trees.
This is Taichi. I'm in my mid-20s. I'm a light-skinned Japanese person, and I have a lump of black hair on my head that has grown uniformly since I shaved it in August. I'm wearing silver glasses, silver framed glasses that are circular, and the sort of default white Apple earbuds. Good to be here.
Hi, I'm Lexi. My pronouns are she, they, and her, them. I'm one half of the graphic design studio Campaign Platform with Calvin, who's sitting next to me. I'm a 5'4" white person in my early 30s, and I have homemade bangs with a dark blonde homemade bangs, and I'm wearing a blue shirt with a dark blue embroidered Monterey Bay Aquarium graphic on it. I'm really excited to be here with all of you.
This is Calvin speaking. I use he, him, they, them pronouns. First and foremost, I would just like to say congratulations to Shannon and Bojana for this whole event and everything that you've done. I'm a 6'2" white person with very choppy, scrappy black hair. I really enjoyed the way that Taichi described his hair as a lump. I too identify with the lump. I have a sort of scruffy face. I'm wearing a deep blue chore jacket over a kind of egg colored shirt, and I'm sitting in our studio together with Lexi.
Awesome, thank you all. So I'm going to just give a little bit of an overview of the plan for today. So the first part of the event is going to be a little more presentation-y. Bojana and I are going to talk a little bit about this project and give a little background and context. And then we'll share 2 videos from each of the kind of design teams about their pieces of the project. And we'll also be sharing Jerome's music. And then we'll take a quick break, and then the second half will be the potluck time, which will be kind of a more informal part of the event, where we'll be sharing some of the alt text that some people submitted during their registration process. So we have some of that, but we'll also be inviting anyone to share during that part. And just to give a taste of the potluck before we get to that part, Bojana and I wanted to share one that we really loved, that Sarah Hollicher submitted. And it says, a small group of people gathered around a table of various foods they brought to share with each other. There are all different types of food, sweet, savory, hot, cold, in various containers and packages. The people look comforted and loved by each other and are excited to share a meal. And yeah, we just loved that we also had a potluck themed image description for the alt text potluck.
Great.
Bojana, over to you whenever you're ready.
Great. Yeah, I was just thinking about how delicious that all sounds. And now that we have a sample of alt text, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what alt text is. So alt text is a type of written description of a digital image, and it's a type of access to visual content for people who are blind or living with low vision or certain cognitive disabilities. It's also a type of hard metadata, usually associated with an image, and mostly found in HTML. If you don't use screen reader software, you're not just going to happen upon it in the world. And screen reader software, something that I use, and it's basically a software that translates online text to either a synthesized computer voice or to a digital braille display. And so if you're navigating a website or social media, as I do, I'll be going through the different headings or paragraphs or skipping around. But once my screen reader software gets to an image, it's trying to read the code in that image, it's trying to figure out what it is. And if a person hasn't inserted alt text into it, it'll read a line of numbers, or it'll read something really vague, or usually something incorrect. So alt text is a really essential part of accessibility online, but so often it's approached from a compliance-based point of view. It's seen as a burden, and usually is met with minimum effort. But Shannon and I and many others saw some possibilities with alt text, and we started to unpack the creative and expressive possibilities with alt text, and we've been doing that over the past 2 years or so. And now there's been so many different forms of this project, which is so exciting. But the aim of the project has always remained, to create space and opportunities for people to share and practice image descriptions. And Shannon's going to talk a little bit about why we're celebrating today.
Yeah, so like I guess Sally said at the beginning, an earlier form of this project was a workshop curriculum, and that was something that Bojana and I developed together and have done with a bunch of different groups of people. but have been thinking about how to disseminate this information and get it to people in different ways. And so that's where the kind of new forms of the project come into play. So we have this new workbook and website. Yeah, I definitely want to shout out Disability Visibility Project for their support of especially this dissemination phase. That's what allowed us to hire a companion platform in Laurel and Taichi. So very excited and grateful for that. So the workbook is basically a self-guided version of the workshop. It's available in a lot of different formats. There are some free formats that are available on the website. Audiobook, Word doc, Google Doc, and PDF, as well as a Spanish language translation by Chivita Espacial that's available as a Google Doc and a Word document. And then we have a hard copy version of the workbook that was designed by Companion Platform. It comes as a set of 2 since the activities in the workbook are designed for 2 people and comes in a cute little box. And yeah, we're just really excited about these new ways for people to engage with this project and get to know this material and bring it to their communities and networks and online spaces.
All right, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why we decided to commission Jerome Ellis to compose an original piece for the launch. We were going to be bringing in some visual elements for the launch, and we were talking about that, and I was talking about, oh, okay, how are we going to do the description for that? How can we make the description really interesting and engaging? And we decided, well, maybe we could do an additional audio piece. If we're bringing in new visual pieces, we could also bring in some audio pieces or a new audio piece. And we started to think about, who could we reach out to? And we were lucky enough to be in several cohorts, which also discussed issues surrounding disability with Jerome. And Jerome just seemed like a great fit for what we're looking for in regards to this project, somebody who could really match the tone or reflect the tone of the workshop. And we were also just really excited to bring in another disabled artist and composer into the project. So we decided, we commissioned 2 different pieces, a 1-minute piece and a 5-minute piece, which you will hear soon in this launch. But we also decided to continue that we will, debut it here, but continue to use it in future All Texas Poetry events. So I'm very excited for everybody to hear it. And we also have a transcription of the composition as well, which will be posted in the chat when it starts to play.
Great. This is Jay. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and share that piece.
Jay, we can't hear it. Oh.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yay! When me and Shannon heard that, I mean, we were just beyond excited. It was like, yes, where has this been throughout this whole project? Why didn't we do this before? So we were just so thrilled to have that piece, and we'll hear more of it later on. But again, just so very thrilled to have Jerome be a part of this and to add this layer to this project.
So good.
And Dan here. Oh, sorry. I just want to read some amazing comments that have been shared in the chat. Mad from iBeam has shared some resources for finding out more about Disability Visibility Project. You can visit disabilityvisibilityproject.com. You can also download the Alt Text as Poetry workbook at alt-text-as-poetry.net. We have some applauses from Calvin and Jay. Jeff says, love it. From Genevieve, lots of love coming in from everyone. Yeah, just wanted to share that. And also Ezra said, wow, yes, Jerome, and congrats, Bo and Shannon, all around amazing.
Nice.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Next up, we're gonna share a video that Laurel and Taichi made about their piece of this project, which is the website. This is Shannon, just popping in to say, this is the video about the workbook. We can start with this one, Jay, if that's easier, but just wanted to give people a heads up that that's the one that looks like it's on deck.
Yes, that's correct. This is the workbook, and also a video that is not captioned. So we'll go ahead and have this captioned by the captioners. Okay, it's full screen, and I think we'll go ahead and start.
Sitting on an evenly lit gray background, framed by empty black space, are a set of the Alt Text as Poetry workbooks. The only detail that differentiates the two books is their cover. One is image-based, spelling the title Alt Text as Poetry out in 4 repeated symbols, and the other cover is text-based, describing the first book.
This book is printed at a familiar feeling scale. Big text fills the cover, Alt Text as Poetry. Each letter is made of repeated round shapes. These round shapes are symbols borrowed from landscape design, where they are typically used to indicate different types of trees on plans and drawings. Alt is made of a shape that reminds me of a cabbage. Text's circles look like the globe of a dandelion. The shapes that spell as look like marigolds. And poetries are spiky like sea urchins. Along the very bottom edge in a sans serif font are our names: Bojana Kukliat and Shannon Finnegan. The cover is printed on a subdued green paper. The inside pages are a soft white color, and the whole book is bound with a plastic forest green spiral coil.
This thoughtful and imaginative description was written by Shannon, one of the book's authors. As they mentioned, the repeating glyphs used to spell out the title are abstract marks used by landscape architects in plan drawings to fill areas of green space where they imagine trees. Each of the 4 glyphs we used are meant to decipher a different type of tree and correspond with the 4 sections of the workbook. Like the landscape architect, we use these glyphs as imaginary trees, but for another kind of space, the environment in which the text is read and experienced.
When Shannon invited us to collaborate in making the text into a book, we were curious to think about what we could contribute to the text visually, but with the simplest means possible, not adding anything extraneous to the content of the project. We thought about what it would mean to provide an environment for the text, and how that environment would eventually, if only conceptually, shape the experience of the workbook when people met to work through them together. We thought of public parks as places that people return to again and again to spend time with one another, and that time is often shaped by who is present and the surrounding environment that day, much like how we hope people will inhabit this book.
On the left side of the image, a video shows the description-based cover of the Alt Text is Poetry workbook. Two white hands reach up from the bottom of the frame to begin flipping through the pages. The 4 tree glyphs from the cover are dispersed amidst the type on the pages and begin to frame the titles and headers of each section of the book.
Now to return to Shannon's description of the cover. Their way of describing and experiencing these shapes alludes to a completely different kind of environment. One we would like to imagine today, in the spirit of this being a potluck, as a soup environment.
The first glyph reminded Shannon of a cabbage.
The second glyph looked like the globe of a dandelion.
The third glyph felt reminiscent of a marigold.
And the fourth glyph felt like a spiky sea urchin.
Each of the species that Shannon used to describe the glyphs are now dispersed around the image.
In the upper left-hand corner sits a green head of cabbage made of broad, veiny green leaves that wrap around and under one another, almost as though they are concealing a sphere.
Towards the middle bottom of the frame floats the seed head of a dandelion. Thin, delicate lines radiate out from its center, terminating in soft, feathery fibers.
Hovering in the upper center of the frame is the bright orange flower of a marigold plant. Each petal is tightly wrapped into a tapered tube, culminating in a dense and ruffled dome.
A sea urchin appears in the lower right-hand corner. Bright purple needles extend out from its luminescent body in all directions.
To begin to experience or imagine what the speculative soup environment for the book would look and feel like, we have provided an image of an empty, off-white ceramic bowl that sits across from the video of the book. It feels like a good bowl for soup. We'd like to describe what the soup might look like, and for everyone to imagine the soup environment filling the bowl.
A white bowl sits in a black void filled with a brothy brown soup. Steam slowly hovers upwards from its surface, where vibrant purple needles of urchins poke through. Dandelion seeds float around the perimeter, and the petals of a marigold are poignant bursts of orange in the broth. Lobes of cabbage are suspended just below the surface, feeling like looming green forms too heavy for their surroundings. Each ingredient's color and form brushes into and begin to swirl around one another.
Each of the 4 species remains scattered around the frame, along with the empty white ceramic bowl, which sits just to the right of the video that flips through the final pages of the workbook, ending on the back cover, which spells out alt-text-as-poetry.net. Thank you so much for joining us for this speculative dish.
Yay. Thank you, Calvin and Lexi.
Yes, thank you.
We have a couple comments that came in from the chat. Calvin wrote that the urchin reminds me of echinacea. And then a couple, let's see, Laurel wrote, wow. Genevieve wrote, so dreamy. Mindy wrote, that was delicious. Miss wrote, so cool, that was wonderful. And Taichi wrote, I am nourished. So now we'll share Laurel and Taichi's video. So Jay will start getting that set up and yeah, get a little tour of the website.
Welcome to our tour of the Alt Text as Poetry website, which is located at www.alt-text-as-poetry.net. This image shows my laptop open to the mostly blue Alt Text as Poetry website. My laptop sits on my light wooden desk. To its left is my favorite lamp, a glowing round paper lantern, which casts a warm glow, balancing out the cooler blue of the website. Through this video, we want to show some aspects of the site that wouldn't otherwise be obvious. So some of our inspiration, process, and ideas. The website we designed for Alt Text as Poetry has a dark blue background with white text and a bright, multicolored navigation with some flower icons sprinkled about. As I scroll through the site again, I'm remembering what led us to these visual decisions. But first, a little background. Pictured here is Taichi Wee, who is using his laptop comfortably on the floor, scrolling slowly on the Alt Text as Poetry website. Taichi wears a black bucket hat with embroidered flowers, which partly inspired the website's use of flowers. Taichi and I co-created the Alt Text as Poetry website. And this is me, also scrolling on the Alt Text as Poetry website on my laptop, but I'm sitting at my desk and wearing my favorite fall sweater with a turtleneck. My name is Laurel Schwolst. So to begin the website, the first thing we did was clearly state our collective goals. Number 1, the website will be accessible, parsable by a screen reader, easy and clear to use. Number 2, the website's tone will be genuine about its roots as an art project. It won't feel like the voice of authority. Number 3, the website will be economically made. Number 4, the website will rely heavily on text, most likely no images unless they're decorative or abstract. Number 5, the website will explain itself. If it uses any visual communication, it will be described in text. Since Taichi and I are visual designers and developers, we realized our biggest task was translating the tone into visual form. The tone wanted to be accessible, inviting, and joyful, so we first looked towards the visual design of invitations. Here are 3 images of invitations we looked at. The first is a card to someone's birthday. It has flowers scattered around the outside edges with centered cursive text. The second seems to be a Burberry fashion show. The invitation is actually a piece of knit fabric with the event information in cursive and flowers scattered about the edges. The third is a website invitation to a wedding designed by my previous student, Nita Patel. The text is large, centered, and brightly colored, and cute drawn icons are scattered around the page. We landed on using the motif of the flower. We saw the flower as inviting, as in the previous examples, but also literally. Flowers are invitations to insects so that they pollinate them. On the website, we wondered the best way to include flowers. Since one of our goals was relying mostly on text, we thought we could use text as material or visual shape. So we looked to Unicode Characters. Unicode is a standard that lets people use any character or symbol from every language in the world. We looked up Unicode characters of flowers. Pictured are 4 different graphic Unicode symbols resembling flowers. Below each is its unique name and unique 6-digit code. As a test, we listened to Unicode. We put these flower Unicode symbols in a text file and let the computer speak them to us. A male-sounding computer voice says,
black floret, white floret, 8-petaled outlined black floret, 6-petaled black and white floret.
In terms of colors, we also relied on pre-named CSS colors instead of creating our own custom versions. We used yellow, yellow-green, tomato, cyan, silver, fuchsia, Peru, and pink. So far in this tour, I realize I've been the only one talking, so I decided to invite Taichi to my virtual room and ask him some questions. We met on a website called Whereby, where our smiling faces appear side by side on top of a pine green backdrop. So how did you test the website?
So while I was programming, I used Google Chrome with VoiceOver. That's the built-in screen reader for macOS. And I used it to test the accessibility standards that we implemented, like ARIA roles and labels. And just to feel out for any weird moments or sequences that could be confusing while tapping through the site. And then we received a round of feedback from Bojana, and Shannon also commissioned this person, Courtney Glonka, who's an accessibility tester. And they tested the site with iOS Safari and Microsoft Edge with the screen readers JAWS and VDA and VoiceOver. That's what they told us. And then they suggested that we use ARIA labels for the florets, so we labeled them with their CSS color names. In this screen recording, I'm editing the website's code, where we used the Unicode flower symbol as a portrait next to Bojana and Shannon's bios. I'm typing an ARIA label for the flower so that a screen reader wouldn't just read it as white floret, but instead read it how we'd describe it in our own words, like a symbol of a flower consisting of 5 outlined petals and a star in the center.
What's your favorite part of the website?
Oh, so my favorite part of the website, I think, is that we made and maintained the site in HTML. And the nice thing about HTML is that it describes the information it contains, like how alt text describes images. Here's a screen recording again of the website's code. The code is made up of nested blocks of HTML. When I click to expand one block, there are more blocks inside. The blocks are labeled by their place in the hierarchy of information, like section, or detail, or summary.
Thanks for experiencing our tour. We hope you like the site. Note that to make accessible websites, we rely on testing from others, so we welcome your feedback. Feel free to write us. Our emails are taichi@abundant.blue and laurel@abundant.blue. Thanks.
Yay! Thank you, Laurel and Taichi.
So great.
We have a few more comments in the chat that came in during the video. Nat said, need that bucket hat, which agree, would love for the whole alt text as poetry team to have matching hats.
All right.
Some flower emojis, florets. This is so cool. I love the flowers. Someone typed in the little floret symbol. And Jen wrote, this potluck experience is ASMR for me. Thank you. Jeff seconded that. And Yunjo wrote, this is so wonderful. So that concludes our kind of presentation part. We're gonna listen to Jerome's 5-minute conversation. And this is also a chance for a break if you'd like one. We'll be playing the 5-minute composition again at the end of the event. So if you wanna, move away from your computer, get water, go to the bathroom, whatever you wanna do, stretch, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Awesome. I saw Lucasa asked in the chat about whether it will be possible to listen to those, to the music through the website. And that is, yeah, hopefully in the works at some point, coming someday. And then also Jen wrote beautiful music and descriptions. Cool, so we have, we made it to the potluck.
Yeah, we sure did. And I can talk a little bit about how we came across the idea of a potluck. I think, we've been doing a lot of these online events, and we've been thinking about, how can we make the virtual space like feel engaging and intimate? We're talking about that and thinking about ways, like, do we send things to people? Like, what do we, and we began to talk more, about the project, how it's a lot, sharing resources, being together, learning together. And we were like, how can we bring that in, into this launch? And I don't know, I always just come back to food. Like, I feel like food is always a way to kind of bring people together. And we were thinking about that, but how could we kind of, how could that work in the launch? And we thought about, like, well, bringing in alt text and talking about the alt text, and is a similar way of, sharing a meal, and asking, oh, how did you make that meal? What did you do with that? Let me taste that. And so we decided to use that as the framework for this. And in the spirit of this project and sharing and bringing people together.
Yeah, so we have some alt text that people shared, and people can also jump in to share. I can't remember if this was said explicitly at the beginning, but part of the reason that we're trying to use the chat sparingly is it's not screen reader compatible if people are using both as audio. So, but we also wanted to keep that line of communication open in case that is helpful for you access wise, and also especially with a big group, having that as a choice, but we'll just be reading aloud from there. But you can also unmute yourself if there's something that you want to share. And yeah, I think we're just going to kind of share some of these, chat about them, our thoughts. Yeah, we're excited. I think something that's been such an important part of this project for Bojana and I is just that, like, we're so interested in what other people think about alt text and how they're approaching it. And so, yeah, that's what we're aiming to do. So yeah, to kick things off, Laurel or Taichi, our companion platform, do any of you have an alt text that you want to share, or should I pull one from the audience submissions?
This is Calvin here speaking, and Lexi. We have one we'd like, well, two we would like to share. They're both descriptions, again, in the spirit of the potluck. They're both descriptions of food that we would like to everybody.
Nice.
Go first.
So the first is: a bright photograph of a round pie fills most of the frame. The pie is an earthy orange color that darkens at its edges, encircled by a light brown, tightly crimped crust. It rests on top of a wooden surface with a metal pie serving knife sitting to its lower right. In the upper left-hand corner, there is a small stack of robin egg blue ceramic dishes with 4 silver forks loosely stacked on top of one another.
And this one is
Calvin.
Oh, this is Calvin speaking. This is for an image of turmeric tea to go with the pie. A photograph of a clear glass mug with warm daylight bouncing light off its rim and a curved handle. Inside of the mug is a semi-opaque amber-colored liquid. The mug sits centered on a dark wooden slatted surface with a slightly out-of-focus pitcher in the background.
Thanks for sharing those. This is Shannon speaking. Are those descriptions that you two wrote?
Yeah, so we looked through the New York Times cooking site and we wanted to contribute. Oh, sorry, this is Lexi here. And we looked for alt text of the images that appeared as headers. And we the descriptions were very lackluster, and so we decided to rewrite them.
Oh, I love that.
Laurel or Taichi, do you have anything you want to share, or should I?
I have one. It's tangentially food related. It's one I wrote for an Instagram post when Instagram added alt text. So it's my friend Lucas wrapped in a satin blue hammock tied between two trees. Only his head pokes out like an edamame bean with a serene sleeping face.
That is really great.
Thank you.
It's a very clear idea.
I'm always thinking about humor. This is Shannon speaking. I'm always thinking about humor in alt text, and that sounds like kind of a funny, cute image. And I love it when the description also has like a funny feel to it that maybe matches with the tone of the image.
Yeah, I found while writing alt text for my Instagram post, sometimes it's like more fun or like more fun than the actual like the original picture.
Totally.
This is Sarah. I was super late. Sorry, everybody. Hi, Bojana. It's Sarah Burrows. So there was actually a question that came up in a group today related to this. I don't know if somebody brought it up earlier before I showed up, or if somebody did follow my recommendations to join this launch and submit that question for a alt text. But I'm in one of those image description groups where people can submit ones for other people that need one. And there was a question today about best practices with optical illusion images. And how do you describe that while still keeping it fun and not spoilering it unless people want that spoil, you know, for the people who are reading it, but maybe still are looking at it physically. So I don't know if somebody had a good suggestion for how to do one of those in an artistic, beautiful way. That would be fun still. I don't actually have one to submit because I couldn't think of a good way to do it. The best we could think of was spoiler alert, which was, you know, it's not really very beautiful.
Yeah, this is Shannon. That's a great question. I don't think I've come across a description of an optical illusion, but I love that question of how to capture that feeling of the shift or the surprise that can happen with an optical illusion.
I feel like that is something that it can be done. I feel like I've read it before, you know, like when something to do with like a suspense and it slowly kind of unravels, you know. So I think, I don't know, I think there would maybe take some practice and some intention, but like nothing off the top of my head, like, but I mean, I wonder if that would be, you know, to take some cues from people who write suspense, or like how to write suspenseful short stories. Like, I wonder if anything could be kind of extracted from that. Like, similarly, like how we use, you know, elements of poetry, you know, borrow from that. Like, can you borrow from like something else, like something that has to do with more suspense or thrillers or something like that, or horror? I don't know.
Good thoughts. Maybe this is your book too.
Next workshop.
I like the idea of having like a working group about alt text and optical illusions. It seems like, they're always coming across these kind of special cases. Laurel also shared in the chat, this site doesn't seem to use alt text technically, but there are descriptions below each image on the homepage, and there's a link. We're also going to share the transcript of the chat with attendees after the event. So if you want to go back to that link, it will be available that way. Cool. Well, I'm going to read out another alt text that attendees submitted. And then, but if anyone has a piece of alt text that they want to share, feel free to pop it in the chat if you want one of us to read it aloud, or you can unmute and share it that way. Yeah, so just going from some of the stuff that we have, I really loved this one that Yo-Yo Lin submitted, Full Moon on Mid-Autumn Festival Night on Edan's rooftop, a bright white shining disk just peeking out momentarily from the cloudy night sky. I feel like sky and moon ones are also kind of like, I don't like that alt text of those images. I'm always really intrigued by, and there are actually a few different alt texts on that theme that were submitted for the potluck. There was another one from, let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, from Raul. A desaturated mandarin disc hovers above a row of apartment housing against a pale blue sky. Also some food imagery there, which is I'll keep going. Oh, we have one in the chat. Val wrote, regarding the illusions, I also think that very precise narrative about how the shapes appear to shift might work. Gray lines become fuzzy around the edge, and the difference between the foreground and the background planes becomes more diffuse. The white negative space in the fields of blue start to become more prominent. At the same time, the yellow lines above the gray fuzzy lines start to merge with those white negative spaces, etc. Oh yeah, thinking about it as kind of like a optical journey that's kind of
I like that.
Val added just the blur of it all starting to happen. Yeah. Let's see. I really love this one that Constantina Zavetsano sent in. Michelle lounges in her wheelchair in front of the river. She's wearing monochromatic blue hues, completed by burgundy docks, mask, and cool shades. Behind her is a fence with bird drawings. One appears to be a blue heron. In the distance is the Verrazano Bridge. The scene is stunning. Nobody's around. Big sky, bright day. Bay Ridge abounds. Lucchese, I was going to read yours. Do you want to read it? Do you remember what it was, or do you want me to read it?
You read it.
Okay. Lucchese sent a piece of yellow paper taped to a white wall with a small piece of orange tape. On the paper, in all cap handwriting, it reads, "What feeds you? Dreaming of a future for us."
Ooh.
I love that little detail about the orange tape. I often have colorful tape in my studio that I feel like I'm very attuned to. So I really loved getting that detail and that description. Any from the audience? I'm happy to keep reading, but we want to hear from you, or if you have thoughts on any of the descriptions that were shared, feel free to chime in. Let's see. Echo wrote, "A figure rests on the ground in an open field. We see him from behind tall grass. He faces away from us and towards green trees, bushes, and a mountain in the distance with several houses at its base. A power line runs across the field. The sky is bright with white clouds." And notes that that's from Alex Dolores Salerno's film, El Dios Acostado, which contains visual descriptions throughout the film in both Spanish and English. That's a really, really lovely piece that I saw recently on a Zoom, and highly recommend that to everyone.
What is it called again, Shannon?
The film is titled El Dios Acostado. Pardon my Spanish pronunciation, but there's one from a person I think named Kavar that's a meme, which I also think is a really fun area of image description, a fun world of image description to explore.
Sure.
This one is meme in which a mama possum clings to a log with 6 baby possums on her back. The mama possum is labeled me, and the 6 babies are labeled my health conditions. And it's noted that that is from a Tumblr called, or a website, a post on a Tumblr called librarycards.tumblr.com. Oh, and Nat put the link to Alex's piece in the chat. Thanks so much, Nat.
Yeah, this is Kavar. That's my Tumblr. Also, hello everyone. I am a picture on a Zoom screen. I'm a white non-binary person with curly hair, big brown glasses. In the picture, I'm wearing Fanta soda bottle earrings and a gray vest. And I'm looking at the camera against a grayish yellow wall background. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun sort of going through and describing images as I find them, and using the process of image description as a way to hone my descriptive writing skills. And yeah, I'm really intrigued by image description as a sort of literary process, and as a process of like sort of creative collaboration. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here and that you liked my meme description.
Yeah. Havar, what's the name of your Tumblr again?
Library Cards.
Oh, okay, cool.
I can't remember if I mentioned this already or not, but we're also planning on sharing all of the alt text that was submitted for the potluck. We're going to compile it into a document and share that out with attendees, also as kind of a documentation of this event. I think I might have forgotten to mention that earlier. But Kavar, thanks for jumping in and sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Hi, it's Carmen speaking. I wanted to share a little story about using my screen reader last week. I was in a Zoom meeting and my dear friend Roselle was on screen, and the AI that is kind of like informs the screen reader. I guess it gives feedback on video as well. And it just said, adult, indoors, fedora. And that's how it ended. I never got that much detail on the kind of hat someone was wearing before on the description through AI.
That's great.
Yeah, this is Shannon. I feel like AI image descriptions are kind of like a whole humor genre, maybe like the
yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. I'll never forget, I was staying in a hotel and me and my husband were joking about how it felt like it was the hotel from The Shining, and it just was so creepy. And I took a picture of the hallway to send to somebody to just, you know, show them how creepy this hallway was. And like the AI on my phone said 2 faces, and I was like, like this hallway is already really creepy and feels haunted, and my phone's telling me there's like two faces in the hallway and it's seeing something I can't see. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you're right. There's a whole humor genre, I think, that could kind of erupt from how AI just repeatedly gets things wrong or misjudges or miscalculates things. Well, that's the other project we'll have. We're working on illusions and, AI alt text as humor.
Kavar wrote in the chat, the fedora tells you all you need to know about that. And Mindy asked, I have a question, but it's not alt text to share. Will there be a separate Q&A portion at the end? We're not doing a separate Q&A, but Mindy, if you want to ask your question, or if anyone wants to ask a question, I would say jump in. We're happy to do that now as well.
Thanks, Shannon. This is Mindy. I am a Korean American woman in a yellow sweater that kind of looks like it's been faded in the sun. I'm sitting next to Isaac. He's not going to ask a question. It's more of a comment, but the other day I was helping a student put a background onto a website using background image URL in CSS, and there's no alt text field that I could figure out. So I searched it, and a number of responses came up that said, there's no need to describe a background image because it's purely decorative and they're not necessary.
That's the way they're there.
So I thought that was so interesting because when Laurel and Taichi were describing the website, they said the website was primarily text and intentionally the images used were decorative. So I guess I was just wondering, like, if you could comment on that distinction between like the necessary and ambient. I realized maybe it's quite self-explanatory that programmers might think that's not required. But yeah, it was just an anecdote that felt connected to this.
Mm-hmm.
I can, well, or Bojana, do you, I mean, well, this is Shannon. I'll just say, like, I've definitely heard that as a best practice is that, and like, for example, in when you're adding alt text, you can add alt text in Word documents and PowerPoints, and you can mark something as decorative in order to not add alt text to it there. And I think that comes from like not wanting to get the screen reader like super bogged down. Like if there's, yeah, trying to just like not add in a bunch of text and make it hard to kind of navigate. But I think, and maybe Bojana, you can speak more to this, like the way that something is being communicated and the way that something is presented, it is sometimes important information. It's not necessarily always important information, but yeah, so I think that, yeah, and I don't know, maybe other people in the audience also want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, well, okay, say it's just decorative and it's not important, but somebody put the thought into finding that background, inserting that background to create a whole vibe to the website or to whatever is going on. And so it's like, how can you say it's not important? You put it there, like it has some importance. Like, so I just think about, you know, and also taking into consideration what Shannon said about you don't want to bog down a screen reader, but I'm wondering how much would that bog down? I mean, if you have it inserted someplace around the website, like, or like have a description of the websites. I don't know. I mean, I think there's some ways that aren't too difficult to figure out. To me, it just seems like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of not bogging down the voiceover or speech, but also it seems like not wanting to do that extra work. I mean, I think, you know, that's just some of my initial thoughts on that.
It would be nice if on the screen reader you could toggle between decorative or informative.
That would be really cool.
I kind of feel like they should be linked in some way, but like in a way that is, what to say, like, you know, like it, sorry, like I wonder if like a slight vibe description could happen in the description of the website itself, maybe like after the initial statement about the website. So in the meta text of the HTML. And on that note, I realized I wanted to share the alt text of our image on our website. So I don't know if any of you have texted the website to someone else, but there's like an image that appears when you do that. And we just figured out that you can add alt text to that image.
That's great.
So maybe I'll just read that if that's cool. So it says, the title alt text as poetry appears in white text centered over a blue ocean background. Several translucent white jellyfish are swimming about, and bright multicolored flower icons seem to follow them. And so we kind of wanted to bring some alien aspect or like mysterious aspect into the design of the site. And so we kind of had this motif of a jellyfish that was sort of like secondary. And so it's more of an Easter egg. So that's why it appears like when you text someone.
That was Laurel, one of the website people speaking there. This is Shannon speaking now. There's a new question in the chat from Kavar. Do you have recommendations in regard to dealing with images that others find too detailed to describe / using detailed images when personally lacking time, spoons, etc. to do them justice? I will say like image descriptions have definitely shifted the way that I post online. I do sometimes find myself kind of feeling I tend to post less images in order to give that kind of attention to the descriptions. But I also really love this practice that sometimes happens in online crypt spaces where someone will post an image and ask someone else to describe it in the captions and say like, hey, can someone put an image, or someone will start a description and say, hey, can someone else add to this? And yeah, I love that it can also be a collaborative process like that.
I had a comment. I just posted it in the chat, but I'll also read it. It says, I have a comment. I noticed that white as a reference to skin was mentioned twice during this potluck, and I was suddenly sensitive to the ways alt text as poetry might offer us an opportunity to disrupt white, Black, Asian, etc., to describe the phenotypical expression of human bodies and disrupt assumptions of one's experience in space. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Calvin. Yeah, I think the language that people use in relation to their own identities and the identities of others is often like very political and informed by their positionality in the world, and that often appears in the alt text. And I think is an important part of this practice is thinking about how or just that like the alt text is also like responsive to the environment that it's created in and the person that creates it, and so that those things are those kind of power structures exist, and it can be an opportunity just to disrupt those, or it can replicate those, and it kind of depends on who's doing it and what their aims are. Thanks for sharing that. So I think we're, if I'm correct, Jay, we're getting towards the end, right?
Yeah, we're nearing 5:30. Yeah, we could, totally up to you. We could certainly transition over to playing Jerome's track as an outro and begin to wrap up, or
Yeah, I think I want to say a couple of wrap up things before we play Jerome's music again as the final outro. Certainly just want to thank all of our panelists and all of the iBeam staff for and all of our access workers for making this event so wonderful today. And also just want to encourage people to spend time with the website and with the workbook. All of the formats of the workbook are now available on the website, and there's also a link there to buy the workbook set if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, Bojana, are there other things that you want to add before we wrap up?
I was just thinking about how grateful I was just to be here with everybody. This is a great event. There were so many different parts of it, so many, I feel like, delicious little things to taste, and the videos and the music and the people's contributions and these different ideas of how alt text can be used. And that's something that I really do feel each time we do a different iteration of the Alt Text as Poetry project, something new is generated and something else we start to think about after that project, like, other things that we weren't thinking about necessarily before. And that really, truly does come from people sharing and just, I think, feeling like they can share in these spaces. So I'm just so glad that, like you were saying, I was saying earlier, the aim is to be able to provide these kinds of opportunities and spaces. So yeah, just really so grateful for this and to be a part of this and for all of the support we've gotten from everybody. It's wonderful.
Cool. I think, Jay, yeah, let's take it away with Jerome's music. And thank you all again for being here and celebrating with us.
Yes.
Thanks so much, everyone. Congrats too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Yes, all of you, take care. Bye.